Headliner Nation, we have finally reached it, the final episode of my top 100 rankings for fantasy football here in 2020. Kyle with the Fantasy Headliners getting ready to break down players 1 through 25. And if you've missed any of the top 100 episodes so far, make sure you go back over the last couple of weeks. You can see it right on the thumbnail. It even tells you which players are being discussed in that video. And you can see where I've ranked all of the top 100 players over the course of the last couple of weeks. The episodes really aren't that long. I break them down so they're in smaller sections. So after you get done with this episode, if you're wondering where other guys landed on the list, make sure you go check out those episodes as well. But before we jump into player number 25, don't forget it's only June. It's still really early in the offseason right now. We've got a while before we get to kickoff, so these rankings are going to change. These are not finalized. These are not set in stone. These are of just right now. And then when we get some more information on players, we have injuries, possible holdouts, whatever it may be, we'll update these rankings as this offseason goes on. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around. And also, I put up all of my rankings against the expert consensus ranking over at Fantasy Pros. So you'll see that on the slides as well, so you know where my rankings differ from the ECR. So let's jump into it now and talk about player number 25, which is Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to see 3 Chiefs pop up here in the top 25 because, well, it's the Chiefs offense. You want as many shares of it as you can possibly get. Travis Kelce is my tight end 2 this year. Nothing against Travis Kelce. He's going to have a fantastic season. Most have him as their tight end 1. I'm just wondering, maybe if we don't see a little bit more Mecole Hardman this year. Sammy Watkins, I'm not really that concerned about Sammy Watkins taking away anybody's targets, but who knows? Mecole Hardman was so good on such a limited basis last year. Maybe the Chiefs try to work him in a little bit more. Maybe we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire really do take that step forward and be that guy for them out of the backfield. And maybe some of those intermediate targets don't always go Travis Kelce's way. But again, he's still going to have a fantastic season. There's absolutely nothing against Travis Kelce. Why is that? Is because I've got his counterpart at the position, George Kittle, right next to him as my tight end 1. I don't think it matters which one of these guys you get. It's all based on preference. Honestly, if you're a Chiefs fan, take Kelce. That's the only real difference. If it's a fan, these guys are going to be right next to each other in points. I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. The one thing you could possibly argue for George Kittle to be your tight end 1 right now is the Deebo Samuel injury. Now, George Kittle was my tight end 1 before that, but you could possibly use that as an argument at this point because maybe Deebo Samuel, maybe he comes back and he's not 100%, or maybe he does end up missing a couple of weeks or a few weeks to start the season. Maybe he re-injures that foot. Whatever it may end up being, a lot of people are talking about Brandon Ayuk right now. I'm personally talking about Jalen Hurd. You've heard it here first. If you're looking for that cheap pickup to replace Deebo Samuel, I still think Jalen Hurd is a sleeper this year, and you will see more of him on this channel as the offseason progresses. But maybe that is an argument for George Kittle if you want to try and have that argument. I won't. If you want to say, Kyle, Travis Kelce's my tight end 1, go for it. I've got no argument against that because both of these guys are so damn good it doesn't matter. Coming in at number 23, my quarterback 2, Lamar Jackson. Love me some Lamar Jackson. Absolutely nothing against him. But I think you know who my quarterback 1 is going to end up being. Lamar Jackson offers you so much upside on the ground and through the air. I just think Patrick Mahomes throws the ball so much that he's the guy that on a consistent basis, we know what we're going to get from him every single week. With Lamar Jackson, we know what we're going to get. We know he's going to have a high ceiling every single week, but maybe, just maybe, he gets slowed down in the run game a little bit this year, maybe because of opposing defenses, maybe because they just don't want him running the ball as much. And does he take a next step as being more of a pocket passer, a guy that throws with accuracy a little bit more consistently, that gets through all of his reads? I don't want him to become a pocket passer. I'm just saying, can he become a guy that thrives in the pocket a little bit more? Just have to wait and see. Lamar Jackson is still terrific. That's the only reason I've got him as my quarterback 2, just because I think Patrick Mahomes will be a little bit more consistent than Lamar Jackson. At number 22, my wide receiver 9, Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not off the Browns bandwagon. I still believe Baker Mayfield is the quarterback to lead that team. And if a team like the Saints with Drew Brees can have 3 guys thrive, Michael Thomas, Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara, which we've seen in the past, then I don't see why we can't have Odell Beckham Jr., Kareem Hunt, and Nick Chubb all thrive in Cleveland. Yes, the difference between Baker Mayfield and Drew Brees is quite a bit, but that doesn't matter to me right now because I still think Baker Mayfield is uber talented and is going to be a top quarterback in this league after this season. So still running with OBJ. Here's my wide receiver one spot higher than the ECR. At number 1, Todd Gurley, looking for a bounce back-esque season from him because honestly, even though his season wasn't all that bad last year, you didn't get a whole lot of upside at the beginning of the season. The Rams really wanted to try and limit his workload, but he's on a 1-year deal in Atlanta. Okay, Atlanta's not signing Todd Gurley long term. I don't think that there is any way possible they sign him to any type of a long-term deal after this. Todd Gurley will be a free agent after 2020. Because that happens, Todd Gurley is going to get a lot of looks this year. Okay. The running backs that they have there in Atlanta do not come close to a healthy Todd Gurley. He's finally taken his physical. He's signed his contract. He's on board. Everything looks to be good. They're going to run with Todd Gurley. He's going to get worked in the passing game as well. He's a lot better this year at running back 12, 3 spots higher than the ECR. His value is a lot better for me this year than it was last year. Last year, people were still wanting to take him in the first round, maybe early second. This year, you can get him like late second, early third. And if he's your running back 2, that's terrific value because you could get your running back 2 with running back 1 upside every single week. Love Todd Gurley this year. At number 20, Patrick Mahomes, my quarterback 1. Already talked about him a little bit when I went through Lamar Jackson, but with Patrick Mahomes, again, he is my quarterback 1 because I think he is just a little bit more consistent than what we see from Lamar Jackson. It was also really interesting to see Patrick Mahomes, and that's why I purposely put that picture in there, run the football a little bit in the playoffs. You saw him take off when the pockets opened up for him a little bit and he was able to scamper. He might do that a little bit more this year. So Patrick Mahomes might offer you a little bit more upside on the ground as well than some of your standard drop back and chuck it quarterbacks. I like Patrick Mahomes a lot. Everybody likes Patrick Mahomes. Again, it's a 1A, 1B conversation with him and Lamar Jackson, but it's the consistency that puts him at QB1 for me. Coming in at number 19, Kenyan Drake. My running back 11 this season. Love Kenyan Drake this year. I'm not any lower. I thought I would end up being lower on him when I pulled the ECRs, but coming in at running back 11 on the nose, just like me, kind of surprised me a little bit. He is a guy I'm being just a little bit cautious with. Okay, some people are definitely thinking top 5 potential with Kenyan Drake. I am holding off on that just a tad because that offensive line is not going to be very good. And because of that, it could hamper Kenyan Drake a little bit in the run game. We have also not seen long stretches of Kenyan Drake being really good. Another thing that's just kind of holding me back a little bit. Yes, we've seen a chunk here while he was in Arizona last year. And yes, we saw a brief chunk at the end of the season in Miami a couple of years ago. After that, they ended up bringing in Jordan Howard and never really gave Kenyan Drake the fair shake of things after that. But again, we have not seen him, even though he was kind of the main guy there for a while in Miami, except for a small stretch, we didn't really see him do anything. Now he gets a second year, a full year with Cliff Kingsbury. We'll see if Cliff Kingsbury can do his offensive magic and turn Kenyan Drake into that top tier running back. Number 18, his teammate DeAndre Hopkins, the new wide receiver there in Arizona. I am 3 spots lower than the ECR. I've got him at wide receiver 8. Again, the offensive line worries me and all of the weapons around him as well. It is possible that we see a comparable season to what Odell Beckham Jr. did last year, his first year in Cleveland. Around 1,000 yards, getting you around 7 to 9 touchdowns or something like that. I don't think it ends up being enough to put him in the top wide receiver 1 category. I think he's more towards the back end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. But I can't imagine Christian Kirk still isn't going to get a decent amount of looks. I can't imagine that Larry Fitzgerald in his Sunset Tour here isn't going to get a decent amount of looks. And we just talked about Kenyan Drake and the offensive line, second year Kyler Murray. Just a lot of things going on with that Arizona offense. Last year, I got super revved up about the Cleveland Browns. The offensive line ended up being bad and the play calling ended up being bad and it crashed everything. Wasn't necessarily the players, but I get some of the same feeling with the Arizona Cardinals this year. Can Cliff Kingsbury adjust his game plan to the NFL level enough again to get them rolling? I think he was a great hire by Arizona. I had absolutely no problems with that hire. I think he's going to be a successful NFL coach. But he can't be like Chip Kelly. He can't be the guy that brings his system in and says, oh, my system can beat anybody. I don't need to change it at all. He's got to stay ahead of opposing defenses. If he can do that, now that teams have a full season of watching his game plan in the NFL, Arizona will be just fine. I'm just being cautious with that. That's the only reason I've got him this low. And number 17, our boy here on the channel, Nick Chubb, the guy that we love to love, Nick Chubb, the running back 10 for me this year. I'm very surprised I'm 2 spots lower on him than the ECR. Was not expecting him to come in at running back 8. I thought people would have him more along the lines of running back 12, and I would be 2 spots higher on him. Still love Nick Chubb. I get to the end of the first round, I'm drafting Nick Chubb if he's there. Kareem Hunt doesn't scare me at all. The offensive line is greatly upgraded. They've got a head coach in Kevin Stefanski that's going to run the football. Kareem Hunt's going to get his shake. He's going to get his targets. He's going to get his yardage. Nick Chubb, though, no. He is going to run all over the NFL this year. Do not be afraid to draft Nick Chubb. Coming in at number 16, Amari Cooper, my wide receiver 7. I am 2 spots higher on the ECR than him. I've got a lot more Amari Cooper information to come, though, this offseason. I don't want to spoil all the research right now. But even though he's got CeeDee Lamb around him, even though he's got Michael Gallup there, you've got Zeke, Dak Prescott, people are worried about a holdout. I don't think it happens. I think Dak Prescott signs before the season gets started. Amari Cooper is a guy that could end up sliding over to the slot and be the main slot guy. If that happens, Lord Almighty, my pecs are going to be hard, people, because he is going to feast on opposing defenses playing in the slot this year. Amari Cooper, my wide receiver 7, 2 spots higher than the ECR. Coming in as my wide receiver number 6 at number 15, Kenny Golladay, another guy that I've got a ton of research on. I can't wait to share it with you all, but it's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you worry about it. Those videos, some of those must-have videos that you see us put out a little bit closer to the season, boy, that is going to have a ton of great content in it, and Kenny Golladay is going to be a guy. I actually posted on Twitter the other day, bold take, okay? I've got a bold prediction for you. When we get to 2021 fantasy football drafts, Kenny Galladay's ADP is going to be higher than Davante Adams, and I'm going to back up that thought on an article or in an article on Patreon in the coming weeks. So head over to Patreon, $5 a month, and you get access to all of that extra content. Absolutely love Kenny Golladay this year. And another wide receiver, my wide receiver 5, Chris Godwin, number 14 overall, 1 spot higher than the ECR on him. Love Chris Godwin this year. I mean, he's gonna eat. There's no doubt about it. He's gonna be one of Tom Brady's favorite weapons. I know people have talked a little bit about, with Chris Godwin, if he's going to be playing on the outside more, because let me step back here for a second. Tampa Bay announced a couple of weeks ago that they were going to start using more 12 personnel in their setup, which means you're going to see a lot more 2 tight end sets. So if you have more 2 tight end sets and you plan on having a running back in the backfield, you're not going to have a slot receiver if you've got 2 guys out wide. Now, it is possible that Chris Godwin lines up in the slot and then Mike Evans lines up right next to him and you put 2 guys on the same side of the field and you put your tight ends over on the other. I mean, there's some different things that could happen with that. They could get a little bit crazy with that. And yes, Chris Godwin could technically, I'm doing air quotes even though you can't see me, be in the slot. But he's going to get the number 1 cornerback or the number 2 cornerback, depending on who isn't on Mike Evans. So people are going to move around still. One of the things about Chris Godwin last year is he was truly in the slot when they ran 3 wide receiver sets, and it was one thing that made him super valuable and really was one of those things and why he led the league in yards after catch per reception is because he was eating up the middle of the field and those linebackers that couldn't keep up with him and that slot corner that couldn't keep up with him. So we'll see what happens. Some people have said some concerns about that. I am looking more into it. As we get through the summer, we'll see whether or not that reflects in my Chris Godwin ranking, but as of right now, I've got no problems with it. At number 13, my running back 9, Austin Ekeler. Absolutely love Austin Ekeler this year. And if you buy the draft guide and my dynamic running back rating, I talk about Austin Ekeler a lot more. This dude is going to feast this year. I love Austin Ekeler. I want to get him in as many drafts as possible. You can see right there, 4 spots higher than the ECR. Got him at running back 9. These are off half-point PPR. So if you're in a full-point PPR league, Austin Ekeler is going to jump up towards the running back 5 area for me. So if you're getting even more points per reception, he's going to move even higher. Absolutely love Austin Ekeler. Number 12, my wide receiver 4, Davante Adams. Nothing against Davante Adams. Again, I keep saying it over and over. Nothing against, because I don't want you guys to be like, oh, wide receiver 4, you hate Davante Adams. That's not the case. There's just 3 guys here in 2020 I like a lot more than Davante Adams. One concern for me, do opposing defenses start to focus on him even more? A lot more, maybe double teams. Do they say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to beat us with these other guys that we've got out here, whether it be Allen Lazard, Devin Never Funchess, whatever it ends up being, Jay Sternberger, do they say, Aaron Rodgers, you got to beat us with those guys? And they've already said, we're going to be running the ball as much as we did last year. You've got a 3-headed running back tandem that is going to possibly, depending, do a lot of damage if the play calling is right. We just have to wait and see. Davante Adams, I'm just a little bit worried about his ceiling this year compared to the other guys that I got ahead of him. Number 11, my running back 8, Alvin Kamara. I like Alvin Kamara. The one thing you've heard me talk a lot about, Headliner Nation, is just my concern about the intermediate targets that we've seen Alvin Kamara get in years previous. I still think his running game on the ground is going to be unfazed. Him and Latavius Murray are going to have the same roles. But a lot of the work that you've seen Alvin Kamara get in the pass game recently, is it affected by Emmanuel Sanders and a full season under his belt of Jared Cook? Jared Cook and Drew Brees at the end of last season really started to click. Now that you've got him and Emmanuel Sanders, maybe he doesn't look Alvin Kamara's way nearly as much. He is still a running back 1 for me, but a lot of people talk about him being a high running back 1. That I'm being cautious of, because the guys ahead of him, I really, really like this year. And if you haven't seen my rankings previously and you don't know who it is yet, don't worry, we're going to talk about it more. At number 10, my running back 7, Derrick Henry. He's not going to replicate the 18 touchdowns he had last season. It just won't happen. If you saw my video a couple weeks ago or last week about overdrafted players, I mentioned Aaron Jones on a lot of information about running backs putting together back-to-back 15-plus touchdown seasons. It hasn't been done since Terrell Davis in 97-98. So no running back has 15 or more touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, in a season in back-to-back years since 97-98. So Derrick Henry, the odds are against him putting that up, but we know the volume is going to 100% be there. We know Ryan Tannehill's got the weapons around him. We know what he can do in that offense now. They have a good defense, so they're going to control the game with the defense and the run game. Derrick Henry is not losing any volume this year, but I've moved him lower because I do expect him to lose some touchdowns. It's just really, really hard for running backs to put up that many touchdowns in back-to-back years. That's the reason why I've got him a smidge lower than the ECR. At number 9, my wide receiver 3, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is a guy to me that just every single week has the highest ceiling of almost any player in the NFL. Almost any player in the NFL. Running back, tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, doesn't matter. Tyreek Hill is one of those guys, every single week you put him in your lineup, you know that he has a chance to win you that week on his own. Most people have him at wide receiver 2. I have him at wide receiver 3, and you'll find out why in just a minute. But Tyreek Hill, once again, another big year. All he's got to be is healthy, okay? He was out the first few games of last year with an injury. If he's healthy and on the field, expect another big year from Tyreek Hill. Dalvin Cook is my number 8, my running back 6. I am 2 spots lower than the ECR. Dalvin Cook last year was a must-own running back for us. We told you, do not be worried about injuries. Draft Dalvin Cook. Here's the thing, okay? I'm still not worried about the injuries. If I can get a decent price on Dalvin Cook, I am absolutely going to take it, because his upside, his risk versus reward, his reward is so much higher than his risk. Even though the last couple of years he's finished with injuries, he's had issues, his upside is just so high every single week. The one thing I am worried about is maybe they just take a little bit of the volume away this year. Alexander Mattison last year looked really good in a limited role right behind Dalvin Cook. He is a guy that can help shoulder that workload a little bit more. With no Stephon Diggs this year and needing to run the ball possibly a little bit more, Dalvin Cook could see what we saw from him last year or a little bit less, because they say, hey, we've got to get Madison on the field more this year. The passing game just isn't going to be the same as explosive it has been in the past with Stephon Diggs. We got to get Alexander Mattison out there because we got to run the ball a little bit more. That's my only thing. And if that happens and Madison's hot with the touches, maybe they give him a little bit more in a game than what Dalvin Cook gets. Still love Dalvin Cook, one of my favorite players in the league. Explosive upside. That's just the one thing that worries me. Now we go to my running back 5, and maybe this is a guy that's going to throw some of you off. My number 7 overall player, 4 spots higher than the ECR, is Josh Jacobs. I have got a lot of Josh Jacobs information coming, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a lot of good research stacked up right next to me right now, but I don't want to blow it all right now, okay? It is still only June. I want to perfect these videos, because when we do our must-have videos and our league winner videos, when we get more into the July timeframe, those are our really big videos that really help people win league championships. We want to make sure those videos are perfected before they are put out, okay? So I don't want to give it away right now. But the passing game work, even if Josh Jacobs doesn't see a huge progression in the passing game, even though I think he will still see a little bit more, they said it over the offseason. We want to get Jacobs more involved. If he even gets a little bit more and we see the similar groundwork that we saw last year, Josh Jacobs is going to be a beast this year. I did a video over on Patreon a couple of weeks ago breaking down film of the Raiders offense from last year, and specifically went through what you need to look for from Josh Jacobs and the Raiders offense this year because of the weapons they have added. It is a great one, ladies and gentlemen. Even if you just pay the $5 to go check out that content for 1 month and then bail from Patreon, it's worth every penny of that $5. This video I did, I think, is one of my better videos, to be honest with you. It was a great film breakdown, so it's not just me talking. You are watching film of the Raiders offense from last year while I'm walking you through it. Okay, Josh Jacobs, a lot of upside this year. 4 spots higher than the ECR. Number 6, my wide receiver 2, Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley, potential breakout coming. But not only that, now you have got Todd Gurley there to help the run game once again. Okay, the run game was awful last season. Absolutely awful. Julio Jones, if they can get the run game going again, if Calvin Ridley has the breakout, if Hayden Hurst is as good as people say he's going to be, you know, if you listen to the channel, I'm not nearly as high on Hayden Hurst as some other people. I'm trying to stay away at his current price point. But if this offense is supposed to be as good as it is with the weapons around him, that only makes Julio Jones better, because he will still be the very first look for Matt Ryan every single time. Better players around Julio Jones doesn't make Julio Jones worse. It makes his opportunities better. Okay, that's the one thing I'm going to continue to say over and over this offseason. The better players around Julio Jones don't make him worse. They don't make him better. They make his opportunities better. One-on-one coverage, yards after the catch, one-on-one coverage in the red zone, all of those things, Julio Jones could be in for a humongous year. Number 5, another guy you're going to probably be turning your head a little bit and going, what? Number 5, my running back 4 overall, Joe Mixon. This is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. I will die on the Joe Mixon hill this year. You've got to draft him. You've got to get him on your team. I have got 3 to 4 notebook pages worth of information on Joe Mixon to tell you why you have to draft him this year. If there is another analyst out there that is telling you not to draft Joe Mixon because of his early season numbers last year or because of his offensive line, I don't care what you do. Stop listening to that analyst about Joe Mixon. When my Joe Mixon must-have video comes out, I am going to make a believer out of all of you. I 110% guarantee it. I love Joe Mixon this year. He is going to be the breakout big play candidate of 2020 that you all need to have on your team. I will back it up. Do not worry. That video will be coming later on. I am 3 spots higher than the ECR right now. At number 4, Ezekiel Elliott. I did have Mixon ahead of Elliott at one point in time. I went ahead and went back and swapped it a couple of weeks ago because with Elliott, I'm just going to take that safe floor at number 4 overall with the running back 3. Yes, maybe he sees a little bit less in the pass game this year, but he's going to have a whole lot of big old holes to run through, ladies and gentlemen, and there's not going to be anywhere near him because they're going to be running after 3 really good wide receivers. And don't forget, they also have a tight end this year that was a breakout candidate before CeeDee Lamb ended up going there. But Blake Jarwin is another guy that a lot of people like this year, but they're going to be chasing after all those guys. So Ezekiel Elliott, if he gets himself a hole, he's going to be running for a while. ECR comparison right on the nose there. My number 1 overall wide receiver, my number 3 overall player, Michael Thomas. You can't skip on this guy this year. At the end of the first round, if there is not a good running back there for you to take, then you play it safe with Michael Thomas because we know he's going to be Drew Brees' first target every single time, first look every single time. Right on the nose there with the ECR. My number 2 overall player, my running back 2, is Christian McCaffrey. Nothing against Christian McCaffrey. Him and Saquon Barkley are going to be 1A, 1B for me this year. If I draft in the 1 or the 2 hole, it doesn't matter. Preferably, you know what? I'll draft in the 2 hole and I'll just take whichever one you don't take. So then at that point, if something happens during the season, I can be like, you know what? It was the guy I was stuck with. It wasn't the decision I made. Okay. Christian McCaffrey, my running back 2, another big year incoming for him. Teddy Bridgewater is going to look for him an awful lot. Do they try to lessen the workload just a little bit? He just signed a big long-term deal with them. Do they try to just keep him a little bit more safe because they don't want him to get hurt? They want him to be good for the entire time, the entire length of that contract. But again, it doesn't matter. 1A, 1B with Saquon Barkley. Yes, I have Saquon Barkley as my running back 1. Why is that? Because I think we are in for an historic season from Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley's season tops what we saw from Christian McCaffrey last year. And I think by the end of the year, some of you look at him and say, man, it reminds me of some of the seasons that LaDainian Tomlinson put together. I've got more Saquon Barkley information coming as well. Absolutely love him. Judge has already said they are going to run the football. They have made some additions to the offensive line. They have the great run game there, obviously, with Barkley. They have a lot of good wide receiver weapons that are extremely underrated. I think Daniel Jones takes another step forward this year. So I'm super excited for Saquon Barkley. I'm fired up right now going through these top 25 players. Fired up. I'm starting to sweat a little bit. It's kind of warm out here in the studio right now, but that's okay. I've got the light beating on me. I'm getting all worked up. I'm excited. It's super late at night. It's 1 o'clock in the morning while I'm recording this video right now, so I'm all fired up. I'm not going to be able to go to sleep for a couple of hours, but ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My top 100 players for 2020. We're going to be doing more rankings as the season goes on. Don't worry, Jake is going to do some of his rankings as well. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all for right now. That's it. We've got a lot of great content coming on the channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button for us and stick around because you're not going to want to miss any of it. Even if you didn't agree with these rankings, make sure you stick around and watch some of the in-depth videos that we do. If you're judging somebody just by some rankings that they're doing in June, you're doing yourself a disservice. So stick around, watch a lot of the other content we do, leave a comment below if you can, like the video, all that good stuff. Get your draft guide, go support on Patreon, all the good stuff. I'm not going to pitch it right now because I've done enough talking. But thanks so much for tuning in to this episode as I close out my top 100 rankings for 2020 for right now here in June. Make sure you stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you all later on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.